What is up, everybody? It is Thursday night, and we are back again. Brand new episode, brand new panel for you guys tonight. Let's get this party started. You're watching Doc Talk. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome back, folks. It is good to have you all. Good to see the smiling faces in the comments as they start coming in tonight. Welcome back, Doc Talk. So you guys know the rules at home. If you guys have questions, pop them up in the feed over here on the side for us. And these guys will answer them for you. That's what we're here for. Tonight's topic, though, tonight's big topic, we're going to be talking river fishing. And we've got a new panel, some new faces that you guys may or may not have seen on this podcast before. So let's get it started. We're going to go down to Hank at the lower portion of the screen. Dude, tell us about you, where you're from, and what kind of Jackson kayak you're paddling, pedaling, or motoring this season.
All right. So, Hank Vajon, I live in Durham, North Carolina. I've got some great rivers near me. And I float and fish those rivers from a Jackson Coosa HD.
I like it. I like it. Moving across the board here to the other lower corner, we got a newbie, total noob on the Jackson Kayak Doc Talk. Shane Coon, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and yeah, what are you paddling?
Cool. Thanks for having me tonight. First of all, I appreciate it. Shane Coon, I'm from Kansas City, Missouri. Honestly, I don't have a lot of nice rivers around me. I have to drive about 3.5 hours south to get down to the Ozark rivers, the nice rivers down in southern Missouri. But absolutely love fishing. Any chance I get, I take that 3.5 hour drive in a heartbeat. But I'm in Alaska. What I started out with, but this year I picked up a U pick, and that's going to be my river yak for this year with a couple of intentionalities with the U pick. And then, of course, my lake kayak, I picked up the NAR, so that's going to be my lake kayak for the year. But I'm going to go with the U pick with the rivers.
Yo, man, I like it. I like it. Mr. Travis up above, as I mis-emailed earlier today. My apologies. I know what
No, that's
Tyler
all
and I
right.
was thinking.
Yeah, I'm from upstate New York originally, right between Cayuga and Oneida, and I grew up on a Susky feeder in right around Broome County, New York. And I've been in the Panhandle, West Virginia now for about 17, 18 years. And my wife and I live right on a feeder to the Potomac, literally right in the backyard. And Take Two and the Coosa X are both what I run on my rivers. And all I fish is rivers.
Good man. I like it.
That's
Yeah, Travis, I think you're one of the only ones that's. Heck, you was on with Joey once, so yeah,
yeah.
yeah. We've only got one total noob, but it's a good assembly tonight.
If I could just
So
say to
yeah,
Travis, Travis, I know that area, Shepherdstown around there. Um,
Yeah.
and just up the river, Harper's Ferry. I've been through it a million times, never fished it. It's like a kayak fishing dream. It looks like.
Yeah, there's a reason we ended up here. Um, so yeah, I've got a ton of water around me. I've got the New to the south, the Susky to the north, main branch Potomac, feeder to the Potomac, of course, which we live on, and Shenandoah. I mean, I'm right in it. So
Yep.
I got moving water all around me. Very blessed.
and a lot of people would call your area, Travis, probably one of the biggest and best river areas. But I'm
Yeah.
curious to know what you guys think. I mean, coming from very different river areas, and Tennessee, I'm going to represent Tennessee, even though I'm not from Tennessee, has very amazing river fishing. What state do you guys really truly feel like has the best river fishing around?
For big fish,
Yeah, just whatever.
I mean, whatever, and not seeing anyone all year. I'll take the river right behind our house. I got 30 miles one way and 30 the other. I don't see anybody on it all year. So that's my pick.
I'm gonna
I like it.
go. I'm gonna go with Pennsylvania, because the Delaware River on the east side that runs up from the Chesapeake all the way up into upstate New York, where it forks into the west and east branches. That's the longest undammed river on the East Coast. And I have fished it top to bottom, and it has every species you could ask for. The famous shad runs, the other anadromous runs like the stripers, stuff like that. You go all the way up, you fly fish for wild trout. The middle stretch, walleye, muskie, pike, smallmouth, where it starts to slow down at the water gap. Largemouth bass fishing is good. Then you get to the middle of the state. Well, even just going over a little bit, you have the Lehigh, then you have the Susky, which is legendary, right? And then you have the Juniata, which comes into the Susky, which is arguably, a lot of people think it's the best smallmouth river in the country. I happen to agree. And then farther west, where I used to live in Pittsburgh, you have the Three Rivers. And those are amazing fisheries, each one of them in its own way. So I'm going to say Pennsylvania is the best river state in the country.
I think you're pretty fair there. That's probably the best explanation I've ever heard. So your guys target river fish primarily. I know Travis, your target river fish is primarily smallmouth, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I've fished smallmouth and moving water for right about 40, 45 years now.
How about you guys down there? Are you guys looking for just whatever bites, or just primarily targeting spots,
For me,
smallies?
for me, I'm chasing the smallmouth for sure. There's not much better than a good fight of the smallmouth, and for me, it's yeah, smallmouth all the way. I'll get lucky to catch something else every once in a while, but the feeling the tug of that bronze back is where it's at.
Yeah, that's an awesome fish. I'm jealous that you guys have good smallmouth fisheries. I do not. I've got to travel 3 hours to get to the New River for good smallmouth fishing. There's some within about a 2 hour drive, but it's not a great fishery up on the Staunton here above Bugs Island. So for me, I'm fishing really slow, kind of southern rivers. I got the Cape Fear, I got the Noose. These are in some areas. Just last week, I was down on the coast fishing ahead of the MLF tournament this week. I was down there with my buddy who fishes on the Bass Pro Tour, and we were fishing tidal rivers, and we were bass fishing, and he caught a flounder, and I spooked a puppy drum in a laydown. So these, like, if tidal fisheries are a different animal, but if you just move a little bit upstream to where I am, I'm fishing slow water. It's primarily, I'm fishing for largemouth, but I like some primitive species too, like bowfin and gar.
Very cool. Very cool. So let's talk about river setups just a little bit. Just kind of a teaching thing for the folks at home that may be curious about river fishing. What are some of the things that you guys look for when you are targeting bass or other species in a river? When you set up, new river, you've never seen it before. Kind of give us the lay of the land of how things start looking for you.
Are you talking about gear wise or what we're going to throw bait wise?
Just overall fishing, I would say what you're looking for as far as structure, different things like how to approach maybe a lay down. Is it a lay down you're looking for? Are you looking for rock? Those type of things.
Gotcha. I'll jump in this one real quick. So I'm a huge finesse fisherman. I like to fish low and slow, and it's hard on some moving waters to be able to do that. My fishing partner, my river guy, Tyler Myers, he's a power fisherman, 100%. It's whopper plopper, buzz baits, and spinner baits, and he's casting 5 or 6 to my one. But for me, I'm looking for the deep blue water. I'm looking for the good laydowns. I'm looking for the Yetis. I'm looking for shoal. I'm looking for breaks in the fast current that I can, pick apart just a little bit more. And I'm more of and once again, I'm a finesse fisherman, so I throw a lot of smaller baits. I don't throw a lot of big honking whopper crawl looking style baits and jigs. I stay finessey, and I've gotten more trophy smallmouth off a 2.5 inch crawdad than I have ever in my life.
What about you, Hank?
The first thing I look for is whether or not the river has a gauge on it, or the section of river that I'm fishing has a gauge on it that's publicly accessible through the U.S. Geological Survey. So the USGS list of rivers and creeks has gauges on most American rivers, and I go there and I look at water data for flow and height, to see what stage the river is at, right? That's a safety thing, especially if it's a newer river that I'm not as familiar with. But even on spots that I like to go to a lot, I'm always looking for those sweet zones where maybe sometimes in the early spring, for example, I'm looking for a little bit of a higher flow. It's mixing food and oxygen into the water so that it's kind of stirring things up out of that winter, stagnation. Uh, I might in the summer look for a stable flow and look for those. So this way I'll know to look for those areas that Shane is talking about, those deeper pools and things like that where the fish tend to congregate. But I do like fishing moving water. So um, I look for decent rapids, but I still have to be mindful of the fact that there's one river here. You might know this river you might know the lake that it feeds. It's been on a lot of fishing shows. It's called Jordan Lake. It's in central North Carolina, and Jordan's a pretty famous bass fishery. It's got a river that feeds it called the Haw, Haw, and the lower end of that river is just one huge boulder field. And at normal flow, you can skip or jump between most of the channels. But when that water is high up, you've got to be extremely careful that you don't launch and get pulled down into that boulder field, because those go from, class 1 to class 5 overnight. And people have died fishing there. Kayaking through there. So I'm very mindful of the type of water that I'm fishing. I like rocks and boulders and rapids, but I've also got to be really careful of the conditions that I launch into. So that's really important.
Real quick before we go to Travis, we just dropped in the comment section, whatever channel you're watching on, the access to the river gauges across the states. So if you guys want to check those out, find your local river, see if it's got a gauge or whatever. You can zoom in, scroll around the map, click on your river, and it will pull up the information that you want to see about your river. So yeah, check that out. It's in the comments, and on to you, Travis.
What, unfamiliar water? Something I've never been to? Is that pretty much the question, Mr. Brock?
Yep, somewhere where you've never been, and how would you start fresh on a new river?
Well, it's going to depend on time of year for me. and I don't care up and down the East Coast. If you're in the cold water period, it's gonna differ, greatly from summer swelter. In regards to what I'm targeting, what I'm throwing for baits, and probably what kayak I'm taking. Quite honestly, in the cold water period, I take that take 2 because I get in some pretty iffy stuff, and I want to come home. I'm coming home safe. I specifically bought that Coosa X for when I'm like 100 CFS and lower, quite honestly, in summer. And if I'm on a river I've never been on, I'm trying to think of something I haven't fished on the East Coast, but if I'm on something I haven't been on, I'm primarily, I want to know, number one, what they eat. What are they eating there? All of our smallmouth rivers, predominantly, they're going to be crayfish or they're going to be bait fish. And very rarely are they both. And I follow that through the seasons very, very closely. I can tell you right now, what I throw in the summer has nothing to do with what I throw in, January, February. Just totally, the metabolism of smallmouth is different. Where I'm targeting is different. Depth zones are different. Just CFS is different. So, I mean, I want to get in the water. I want to see what they're eating. I want to flip some rocks. And I'm not gonna so much rely on, other people's opinions of what a river is until I fish it. And I want a full tank of gas. I'm making a drive, and I'm going to check it out with my own eyes, and then probably rely on some gauges and look at that CFS and see what that generally flows at. So that's pretty much how I break down a river. I don't trust anything online until I see it. So,
yeah, because even the gauges can, something may be flowing a little faster in a section that might not have a gauge because it may be falling a little bit more and different things like that. So that is a good thing to watch for, and a very, very solid piece of advice to lay eyes on it before you actually do fish it.
The nearest, case in point, the nearest, even the river that I live on, the nearest gauge is 40 miles downriver, which has nothing to do with where I live.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I can pretty much look at a rock behind a house and tell you if it's go time or not, depending on time of year. And that just comes with experience on a body of water. It's people always say, well, there's nothing that beats time on the water, but I can tell you living on the water is even better.
Yeah.
And it teaches you a lot. It really does.
So let's get into a few of those river fishing techniques. Obviously, that's a big deal, different things like that. Let's talk about the rods and the reels first for river fishing. What kind of action rod are you looking for? What kind of reels are you looking for speed-wise? What are some of those types of items, line diameters and different things that you're using before we get into maybe some baits? Let's kind of talk about the nuts and the bolts that are throwing the baits. How about Shane?
So I started with the gamut. I started fishing rivers about 4 years ago, probably, and I went with the traditional 6'6", go short, keep it short so you don't catch up in the trees, and did the 6'6" thing for a while, and now just everything across the board for me is a 7 foot. I do carry a light, medium, heavy. That is be my jigging style rod. I do carry a medium heavy. That's for my big whopper ploppers, buzz baits. It's got straight braid to it. Other than that, I do a BFS rod. I've gotten really into BFS style fishing, and I throw really small micro style baits with that. So I actually love my BFS rod because I can throw some really small baits when it's really finicky and pick up those bites when most people just can't do it. I carry one spinning rod with me and 4 bait casters, and that's pretty much what I roll with. And a light, medium, heavy, a medium, heavy, a BFS, and a spin rod. And as far as line goes, I don't carry anything over 8 pounds unless it's my braid and the straight braid to whopper plopper buzz bait or spinner bait. And other than that, about 8 pounds is all I mess with as far as line goes.
And I think you're the first guy that's actually mentioned the BFS stuff. That's a whole topic right there on its own to get into. How about you, Travis? What are you fishing with?
Oh God, that could be a whole nother. like,
What are you not? Let's maybe can we go? Maybe we should go. What are you not fishing with?
and again, Mr. Brock, that's gonna be time of year thing for me. Pre-spawn, post-spawn, all that, or compared to December, January, February. I mean, it's just completely different for me. And I've got a selection of 10 rods. So, you know,
You carry 10 on the river with you?
you give me a time of year, and I can tell you exactly what I throw. But
Let's say right now we're heading in here to the getting closer to the heat of summer. Let's talk about right now. When most people are, let's say this is kind of the time when most people are really starting to get out that may not be avid anglers like ourselves, and they're just kind of looking for the good weekends.
yeah, I mean, right now I'm dealing with post-spawn fish. Um, the biggest fish in my waters right now are pretty fresh off the bed because we had some high water events recently, and like quite honestly, I'm probably going to have about 6 spinning rods, maybe 2 casting rods with me, and they're all on the Omega Pro, Yak Attack stuff right behind my seat, and on the Black Pack Pro and all that stuff, and parallel to the water. I don't do anything up in the air or nothing, I don't go fishing. I mean, if somebody went on In Fisherman and read my stuff with Ned Cady back to 2014, I don't go fishing without a Ned rig, and it might, obviously I'm sponsored by Yamamoto, but Senkos, Ned rigs. My Ned rigs are on hair jigs. A lot of finesse stuff right now going into that post spawn for the bigger fish, and like your 21 and up fish right now, they're pretty tough. I'm finessing them. Now a month from now, that's a different different dissertation, but yeah.
I hear you. How about you, Hank? What are you rolling out there with?
Well, I like to travel light. Like, one of my newer kind of philosophies that I've just been stripping things down. So I got the JK, the utility underseat storage. Oh my. I got that JK underseat storage, and I've actually started going out with less tackle than ever before. Sometimes I'll only strip it down if I know where I'm going and I don't feel like I need that big selection of rods and baits. I just go with my confidence baits, and lately that's been 3 rods. I have a top water rod that I use. It's got a fast action. It's a medium heavy 7.2 rod that I throw because we've had that great cicada bite here, and all the local fish have just been looking up and waiting for cicadas to fall in the water and eating those. So a lot of poppers, just a lot of poppers lately. Been throwing those. As we get into the kind of heat of summer, in terms of top water, I might transition more to a buzz bait. I started throwing those more last year and having fun. So a buzz bait. Don't do a lot of frog fishing in terms of top water. I did some last week down on the coast, but around here I don't have, like, the rivers just don't have good frogging water. In fact, I don't have a lot of good frogging water around my house. Period. Um, so it's buzz baits or poppers or whopper ploppers or stuff like that. Maybe a prop bait or something like a devil horse. I like some of those older baits. My other rod, I like cranking, especially in deeper water. So I'll have just a good medium heavy with a medium action kind of, or a moderate action. And I'll throw that in a selection of Rapala baits that I like, and some Norman crankbaits that I use. If I'm fishing a river that has a good crayfish population, like I mentioned before, the Haw River, I'll try to use crankbaits that imitate crayfish, like those colors, reds and browns, maybe some greens, and I might use some broke back, like jointed baits. For some reason, the fish just like to eat those. And then I always carry like a shorter finesse rod. I don't know why. I like to just have like a 6.5 foot, um, you know, light rod that's just got some, like Shane said, he's got 8 pound test on his. Mine will just be for that, those clearer pools and stuff like that. In terms of line, I'm just, I keep it simple, just fluoro leader on some braid, or just straight braid with the finesse, or that little small jigs that I like to throw and imitate crayfish. Shane's right. He says, you got those crayfish waters or big fish waters. For me, it's largely crayfish around here. I think North Carolina has the largest diversity of crayfish species in the entire country. So the fish really eat those 24/7, 365 days a year. You're pretty much guaranteed to get bit if you have a crayfish approach. So yeah, that's what I'll be doing right now. Just a variety of stuff, top to bottom in the water column, catch them all.
Yeah. So, and Shane brought this up. So, Travis and Henry, have you guys thought about adopting any of the BFS stuff for, like, when you kind of get into those maybe skinnier feeder creeks or anything like that? Is that on your radar?
Go ahead, Travis.
No, I don't need it.
I'm with you. I've been on the fence. I've thought about it. I was like, that could be some fun. But then it's like I keep going out there with the same old stuff. So
My apologies. There's a loud rainstorm, so I'll just say this: I haven't given it much thought. I'm always willing to learn and pick up new stuff, but I haven't really given it much thought.
it's an interesting thing, and it's wild to see that there is a lot of folks out there seeming to adopt it, and there's kind of lines of tackle that's really come up that's geared for it. If you're fishing just your local creek, BFS tackle could be a great way to go, I think, for a lot of folks at home. And gives you the big tackle feel with a lot lighter setup. Really, by the time it's all said and done, it can be a blast to catch some of those little 12-inch creek fish and some of those different things in the skinny water. So let's talk about the bait side of it for just a minute here. I know, Travis, you said you never go out without a Ned rig. What are some of the other things that's like just staples besides the Ned rig and hair jigs and stuff like that in your tackle box that you're, maybe even a couple panic lures, just something that's like, well, this is a surefire thing that I have to have.
Well, I pretty much everything I own is a panic lure. If guys are having a day where they're finding tough bites and this and that and the other, they generally will fall back on finesse. Well, finesse for me is number one. I mean, plain and simple, and that's the reason I wrote so many pieces for years on it. Is instead of going through the frustration and then finally arriving in the umpteenth hour of the day that I should have been, throwing something that they'll always eat. Everything that I throw, I would like to think if I get it near a smallmouth, he's probably going to eat it. So I don't go out in left field on my baits. The reason that I do carry the rods that I carry typically on the finesse side or the spinning side is I think a lot of people would be amazed that even if you're around river smallmouth, how a different profile, a different drop rate, a different scent profile, and I'm a big proponent of the scent for river smallmouth, and how that will trigger a bite. It's mystified me now for 4 decades how I can be around fish, and I might take a couple on a Ned that's on a hair jig, with say Arctic fox on it, and I might throw a grub in there that's 4-inch Yamamoto grub that's behind a living rubber on a different weighted head, and all of a sudden they fire back up and I catch fish that I didn't even know were there. And there's a reason I do that. Everything that I do carry has different drop rates and different profiles and different shapes to kind of trigger those bites from a lethargic fish that aren't those first couple that you catch. So
That's very solid. How about you, Hank? What are you throwing?
Panic bait for me is a rattle trap. I don't know why, but I've always got one in there. I think it's from when I was a kid. When nothing else worked, I would tie on a rattle trap and I seem to catch them. So there's no rhyme or reason to it, but I always have one around. And I don't throw them often, but if I can't get bit, that rattle trap is coming out.
I'll tell you what, and when you get into a river situation, it's like those things can't stand a rattle trap. I mean, it's like they've never heard it, or just I don't know what it is, but it's like it just wakes them up all of a sudden, all at once. Just that little burn it and pause, and then they'll just crush it. That's pretty great advice, really. How about you, Shane?
Oh man, talking baits. And some of you may not know, I own a bait company as well. I pour my own soft plastics. But before I go there, I want to hit on this BFS thing real quick for Hank and Travis. Like, you guys are very quick to oh, never me. My last YouTube video I just posted, I landed a 5.5 pounder, 21 something inches on a BFS rod. When you're pulling that thing in on 6-pound test line, that is exciting as all get out. When you land that big fish on a BFS rod, just hold on and wear them out. It's the presentation of a smaller bait when it comes to those things. And one of the main reasons why I got into BFS fishing was, once again, so back to the bait thing, my number one bait on a river is a fluke. Hands down, I will throw a fluke all day long. I will throw a small jerk bait all day long. I'm not huge on treble hook baits on the river at all because I tend to end up catching everything from rocks to twigs to somebody's old bicycle tire at the bottom of the river. Me and treble hooks don't get along. So with being able to make my own baits, and then Travis talked about your fall rate. I think fall rate is absolutely vital when it comes to rivers because sometimes when you're casting in a current, your fall rate could depend on whether it stays on top of the water and goes down the current with it, or if it gets mid current and goes down, or if it just drops to the bottom and bounces along with the current. And those are really important. And so luckily being able to make my own flukes, I salt some of my flukes, which is not the industry norm at all. Most people want their flukes light. They can add some weight to it if they want, but I add some salt to some of my flukes because when I hit the water, I want them to drop. I want them to drop fast and get down to where they're going to so I can jerk them back up. The other thing is I use a lot of small crayfish style 2.5 inch finesse crayfish. That once again I make my own custom colors with them. And then the last thing, which Chad, you got your hands on them. I'm not sure if you got to throw them, but the Ned Nasty is a smallmouth killer if you're a jig fisherman in any way, shape, or form, because it's a soft plastic skirt with a soft plastic bait attached to it. That is, I add floating material to it to allow it when it hits the bottom of the river, that skirt flares wide open and that bait stands straight up and it does exactly what it needs to do once it hits the bottom. So if I'm jig fishing, I'm usually throwing one of those Ned Nasties. But other than that, it's smaller finesse style baits. But no, top water, whopper plopper, buzz bait, I'll use those. Other than that, spinner bait, I don't throw crankbaits at all.
No, I have not thrown the Ned Nasty. It is still in the package. I want you to know that last night I did fish a small tournament out on the river, and I had all of my baits that you had made, and I walked away from my truck, jumped in the skeeter, and forgot every one of them. Um, so I nailed that one. Me and my buddy fished a little weeknight jackpot down here on the river, and I I always have all my kayak stuff with me, so it's like I'm always a hot mess and getting all my things, and yeah, totally walked off and forgot them. And we got way back up in a creek, and I was like, everything I need and want is in my truck right now. So yeah, that was fun. It happens. It happens. Um, so as far as we talked a little bit about baits and different things like that, and I probably should have brought this more in the front side of finding the river and the different things to look for. But how do you gauge your watercolor? I know smallmouth can be pretty finicky if the water is dirty. How much does watercolor change your river fishing process?
For me, it changes it quite a bit. Um, Down here, your turbidity is usually relative to the rainfall and flow. So, um, we've got a lot of old rivers here that have like overhead dams. They're not like controlled flow, a lot of them. So there's just like, you just never know what you're going to find when you go out there. And, some of them are slower, some of them are faster. And time of year is a factor too. Things, they clear up in the winter. But this time of year, for example, right now, the rivers that I fish are pretty, um, they're dark. Got like that, like it's almost black water, but not quite. And that kind of water determines a lot of things. Everything from my reel selection, like, you guys make great points about fall rate. For me, a thing where I'm fishing like uh, rapid, because I've noticed in the summer a lot of fish they'll nose up just like trout do in some places. They'll nose up right under that rapid, and you've got to get a bait to them quickly. You can't drop something into the rapid that's just going to float right over them. You've got to get something down right into them in that little whirlpool or that spin cycle that's under the rapid. So for me, retrieve speed's a factor. In those situations, I want that lure to get down there, and then I want to be able to pick up line very quickly to make it move the way I want it to. And you know, with all those things in the mix, watercolor makes a huge difference, because I need the fish to see it, or I need for them to feel it with their lateral line. So in dirtier water here, if there's a little stain, I'm going to throw something with a Colorado blade instead of a willow leaf. I might even throw a chatterbait on a shallow flat, or some area like that, or over a sandbar, just to get the fish's attention if they can't see it. If they can see it, though, I'll throw just about anything. They'll come up and hammer it. These river fish down here, I'm not sure about what the pressure is like on northern river fisheries these days, But down here, one thing I love about southern rivers, they don't get nearly as much pressure as the lakes do. So there are rivers down here, I feel like I've got them to myself. Just like Travis said about his spots, he doesn't see anybody. So there are some fish that are just really, really dumb in these rivers, and they haven't seen much. If I can just get the bait near them in that clearer water, I'm good. But in dirtier water, I'm looking for something that moves and has a little bit of shuffle in the action to bring them in and trigger that bite.
Yeah, that's solid, man. How about you, Shane?
It plays a huge factor. A lot of the rivers I fish in southern Missouri, they are crystal clear. I mean, you almost want to just drink the water right out of the river. It's crazy. So you got to have something that one that casts a country mile if you're going to be able to let the fish not cinch you in any way, shape, or form, especially when the pressure gets really high at midsummer to the end of summer after everybody's fished the heck out of those rivers. So once again, going back to Hank, you put something in front of them that looks edible in any way, shape, or form, they're going to eat it. But when those crystal clear waters play factor with that, it's like you said, you've got to be able to get out there, way out there, to where they can't see you, feel you, or know your presence at all. But up where I live at, up here, 15 minutes from my house, we have the Platte River, which is it's a fairly stained and muddy style river. It's actually a big flathead river. It's known for some of the best flathead fishing in the country where it's at. But I can go up there with once again, a single bladed Colorado dark black spinner bait or a nice chatter bait that creates a lot of ruckus, or anything that has some type of vibration or something that makes a lot of noise. And that river doesn't get hardly any bass pressure because it is a catfish fit hatchery, more or less. I can go up there with something that's black and blue or chartreuse and white that makes a lot of noise or a lot of ruckus, and I can pull some really nice largemouth out of that river up there. So it just depends on where we're at. I prefer something a little more stained, but I've also had river tournaments where we started out crystal clear water, absolutely amazing, beautiful water. Halfway through, we'll hit a feed or creek of some sort, and it just ruins everything for the day. Everything that I thought I took that I was prepared for with clear water, it was just done. The bite was done. The fishing was done. I couldn't catch anything for that last 12 miles of what we were doing, and I could have just went home at that point and not wasted any more of my time, because I didn't bring black and blue. I didn't bring anything big vibration because I was expecting and gearing up for, once again, clear water. So it plays a huge factor.
Travis.
Water clarity.
Yep, water clarity.
Typically, the waters I fish within 5 states of here, I mean, you're looking at 10 to 15 foot of clarity. Even more than that in the summer. So I've got like shorter rods that I use on my, I touched on my spinning rods, but I didn't even touch on casting rods. But like my spinning rods that I use, when I'm actually floating or I'm sitting up on winter holes and stuff like that, are shorter than what I'll do if I'm tethering like that Coosa X behind me and I'm walking 5 miles upriver. Those rods will differ. My summer rods are 7.6, medium light, extra fast, Croys, and I'm bomb casting, some finesse baits in that gin clear. Now, even more than the clarity, because I don't really care about clarity, quite honestly, because whether or not if it's chocolate milk or it's gin clear water or whatever, crawdads and minnows, they're not chartreuse and they don't have Colorado blades on them. I mean, fish are going to find them, or they starve to death. So I don't, pretty much the same reason they feed at night and stuff, and they see stuff that we don't see. I mean, So I don't really go that route so much, but I will on the vibration spectrum or a little bit bigger bait. If I've got rising water, that means more to me than the clarity thing. If I'm in like summer drought conditions and say that water comes up, 3 or 4 inches, and that food conveyor belt is flushing, for the first time all summer. They're going to be chewing. I got a swim bait in my hand. I'm throwing a bull shad, or book a baby rat or something like that. I'm going bigger. If I got rising water, that's more important to me than clarity.
Yeah, that's good advice. So we've right here about 45 minutes into this thing, so gonna kind of start rounding our way towards home plate here. But yeah, we've kind of hit some buttons on what to look for out in Santa River for your first time. We've talked about the gear, we've talked about some of the baits, the water clarity, checking your local gauges. What are some other big topics that you guys would like to share to someone that's new to the river at home about river fishing? Not all at once now. Come on, guys.
I'm gonna let the two seasoned veterans who live on the rivers chime in, and I'll come in last because I know they're gonna have a lot of good insight on that.
For me, it's definitely how can I put this? If you're new to river fishing, I would say the first few times you go out, go with a friend. Um, that's, I think, really important. Do things like have float plans. If you don't know what a float plan is, learn what a float plan is. Make sure that you understand, you know, what your kayak's capabilities are in moving water. Make sure you're an experienced paddler. Take an ACA course. Um, learn like learn how to fish out of a kayak without the fishing. First, think about being a kayaker. That's the most important thing. Um, so that when you are fishing, you aren't distracted or it's not interrupted or disrupted by the work of being in a kayak. So I went back to, I've kind of been doing a lot more just straight up paddling in my riverboat. And, that means you're doing different things with your hands. You're fishing, you're paddling. I've got a hand paddle, I've got a regular paddle. Um, what kind of anchor are you going to use? I've got, a pole that I put down through the scupper holes. Like there's a lot of different safety and gear features to river fishing that you might not think of if you're just used to fishing a pond or a lake. So I would say focus on just being a kayaker. And then when you're ready, go out with a friend who's also prepared and do some river fishing together. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're doing a long float. You can put a car downstream, you shuttle back and forth, and that kind of thing. But definitely, my advice is know what you're doing in the kayak before you go out river fishing because you just never know. Rivers, I've got a river near me. Um, it's more narrow. It runs into Falls Lake, and from one year to the next, there are just sections I just can't get through because a couple trees came down, or the shortcut around an island got jammed up with logs, and suddenly I'm out there, and now what do? I got to paddle upstream against the current. Like, mm. You really need to know what you're doing when you come up against things like strainers or anything like that. So, yeah, definitely. Once you have that together, river fishing is the best. It's the best. I don't care what anyone says. It's more fun than lake fishing, period.
And you're talking about, coming up on a jam, but man, coming up on weather, like this time of year for all of us in our areas, pop-up storms are like serious. I mean, you can be out on the water and the water get blowed out real quick with some of these pop-up showers. The way, it can rain an inch in 30 minutes or more, and all of a sudden the creek's coming up, you've got lightning coming down, and you're 2 miles with a paddle or whatever away from anything to get you out. So yeah, having that plan is a good idea. And for me, I do recommend. I think I want to echo what Hank said very much. It's good to have those paddling skills. I know motors are a great thing, pedals are a great thing. We all use them, but those paddling skills, man, can get you out of a jam if you need them. How about you, Travis? I know you're the motor man.
No, I'm not.
Oh, you're not a motor guy at all. I thought
No.
you was a Torpedo guy for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, motors won't survive where I live. I'm still waiting on someone to develop a motor that I could test and get back to them and say, okay, it's approved. I'd have one of them busted and probably inside of a week. That's why I've held off. Quite honestly, I've held off on the motor thing because, quite honestly, I don't think the industry's brought the motor scene to the small river, theme like I think they probably could, and hopefully someday they do. I don't own one for those very reasons. I'd have one broke. I don't.
Yeah,
it wouldn't survive me. I'm telling you. Anybody that's fished with me would say, "Yeah, it ain't happening." As far as somebody really new to the river game, and I think we heard some great advice. Go with somebody that's got experience. But quite honestly, I'd leave the kayak at home. Get in the water. Feel what that water's like as it runs around your body, through your legs. Know a stretch of water. I don't think there's any better way to know a stretch of water than wading it. And you do that for a season, and maybe early spring, you do it in the heat of summer, you do it in the fall. You're going to see those water fluctuations and how it changes, up and down. And quite honestly, I really would caution somebody that's a first-time kayaker just going out on their own and launching somewhere. I don't recommend that whatsoever. Yeah. And first and foremost, and I know it's I'm preaching to the choir here with the Jackson crew, but man, invest in a good PFD.
Yeah.
I do see stuff on rivers that makes me cringe, and it really hurts. I mean, seeing some stuff I've seen on rivers.
Oh yeah.
And it's not a question of, if something's going to happen, to people that they don't respect moving water. It's a when, and and if anyone's I'll give you the short route. If you're in the, Eastern Panhandle of West Virginia, you hit me up on Facebook. I'll take you. I'll take you on 3 or 4 different rivers and teach you anything you want to know. And I'll even put you in one of my Jacksons, and I'll teach you everything I know.
I'm coming up, Travis.
So let's go.
On the way, he'll be there in the morning. Have breakfast ready.
Yeah,
but
it is awesome. And like Mr. Hank touched on, please go with somebody. That's huge. And I've done quite a few podcasts too on the winter river fishing and stuff like that. I absolutely do not recommend that to somebody that even has a doubt in their head.
Yeah,
I really don't. And and I'm going to date myself with this, but like, Mr. Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations. And, if you're looking at something that you've even got a doubt whether or not you should be in it, you probably shouldn't. you know. And stuff happens. I mean, it really does.
It
does. I flipped a kayak last fall. It
happens.
It does happen. And I'm standing there like an idiot, and I'm like, I'm looking around, I'm doing one of these numbers like, man, that was stupid. Completely my fault, And it was it was 43-degree water temp.
Now, do any of you guys do the dry suit thing? Travis, you do?
Yeah, Sims makes a version of that. I'm on the Sims Pro staff, and I have been for probably 15, 16 years. And I feel like if I'm going out and there's stuff, I'm coming home safe.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I've got the utmost confidence in my January, February fishing that in that take two, I'm coming home safe. I got zero worries in that thing.
There you go. So yeah, I think the PFD is the other big one, because you see a lot of people, and having that PFD on your body, I think is the important thing to say for the river. You see a lot of people that like to go out and float. It's not so much what you see; it's what you don't see that'll bite you, in any body of water for that matter. So we do encourage everybody at Jackson Kayak to always try to keep that PFD on and keep it close to the body. And it's definitely important this time of year as we all take off and get very active in the paddle scene.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap this thing up, I want to let you guys thank any people that you need to thank, and obviously tell folks where to find out more about you or hang out and connect with you on the social media platforms. We'll start with Shane.
Yeah. So the one thing I would go back to the first time river person, like safety is absolutely important. Minimize your gear as far as you can that you feel comfortable with, one, maybe two rods. But the rule of thumb that I've lived by and has saved me time and time again, when in doubt, get out. Don't go through a rapid. Don't go through anything that you don't feel comfortable in, that you can't feel comfortable to know that I'm going to make it from point A to point B. There's always that variable that you never know where you're going to end up. But hey, I would rather get out and walk the bank, drag my kayak, do what I need to do. I carry my tether leash on the front of my kayaks on rivers are 20 foot. I can let that thing go 20 foot down the river and I still have the whole of the leash on my kayak and know that I'm going to keep it and keep safe. One of the river tournaments, me and Tyler Myers, we were fishing one time and we're coming through some pretty heavy rapids and I went way around it and he's like, hey man, this is either going to really good or it's going to end really bad. And all I could hear was, and downriver he sent everything. And we were safe, but once again, I would not want to take that chance. So live by the rule of thumb with rivers. When in doubt, get out. That's go home, go be safe, and live to fish another day. So as far as me though, with my stuff that I got, I want to thank Jackson Kayak for just the opportunity to be doing what I'm doing right now. This has been 2 years in the works for me. I'm thankful. A lot of you guys, I'm new to the team, but I'm trying to bring it hard as I can. I've been doing the social media content and stuff for years. I do TikTok. I have my TikTok channel. I have a YouTube. I have Instagram. Actually, I've got 2 Facebooks, 2 TikToks, 2 Instagrams, Twitter, and a bait company on top of that. Luckily, my middle daughter is a TikTok famous, and so she teaches me everything I need to know. She gets paid about $2,000 a month doing TikTok content, and she says, "Dad, you need to do this, you need to do that." So I'm thankful for having her in my life to be able to get me through the TikTok world. YouTube's hard. I came in hard and heavy with YouTube. Did a lot of video editing and wasted hours of my life that I will never get back editing video. But I'm starting to get back into it. I'm starting to get there. But anyways, but one of my big things is Anglers in Action for Christ. It's on my hat, AAFC Bait Co. I started that some years ago. For a lot of people know, I'm a pastor at a church, and we do a lot of charity events and kids functions. I started leaning on my sponsors. Hey, can you donate this? Can you donate that? We're doing a kids thing. We're raising some money for this person. And I started wearing them out pretty heavily. So I started buying my own molds and making my own baits out of remelts. And that turned into a full-blown bait company now that we sponsor events. We sponsor functions all across the globe, actually donating pounds of baits every single month to different functions and different kids charities and high school programs, sponsoring college kids. So that keeps me really, really busy on the side. But afcbaitco.com, you can jump on, check it out. A good portion of every bait sale goes towards the charity functions and things of that sort. But I'm on social media, Shane Coon or afcbaitco.com.
Mr. Hank.
Yeah, I'm just, you can just look me up by my name, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's all good. I don't really get excited about social media. I do it, it's fun. Keep in touch with people, make my posts, whatever. I devote more of my time to long form content. I write for a lot of different publications like Travis. I like that side of it. And yeah, so I do that. So if you want to, I would rather see people go and find my blogs on the Jackson site or in Kayak Angler magazine or something like that, and give their time to those media because they deserve that attention. And I try to do my best work there. Whereas social media, it's just like post and go fishing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Travis?
I think it was Mr. Hank, just to go off on a tangent real quick, Mr. Hank touched on that under seat storage. That thing is freaking awesome.
It is.
I don't even think I could fish without that anymore, quite honestly. I've got that on both my kayaks. I love that thing. That was you guys hit the ball out of the park on that thing. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I just bought one last night.
It's been a great tool to have in the boat, man. It's like if you want to go like heavy tackle or just even go just minimal and just man, if you got a day where you just don't want to take much, like Hank said, I mean, you just throw what you got down there and what you want to take, a couple rods, and man, you can streamline your rig really quick. It really makes it fun and makes your boat even more diverse than it already is.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I can carry enough in there for probably 6 months of river fishing. I mean, it's awesome. It really is. The old days of twisting around and looking for a box and all that, that stuff's done. It's awesome. Really is great. Just a great product.
Sponsor shout out to one of our podcast sponsors. Evolved Fishing makes these cool little bags with the zippers, kind of like the money bags, but they got a zipper to them. And like just throw your rod sleeves in there and throw them down inside the under seat bag, or they've got smaller ones you can put tackle in and different stuff like that. This thing right here, I've got like 3 of these in my underseat bag right now besides the tackle boxes. I absolutely love this to just soft plastics and different things like that.
Yeah.
Super duper handy if somebody's looking for something different to put in their underseat bag.
Pretty cool.
Check AT15 for a 15% discount.
Well, to touch real quick on the underseat storage, like you could take those with the U-pick that has like 4 spots for 3600s. You don't need anything behind you at all. Some way to hold rods, and that's it. Everything else is in front of you or under your butt. So that underseat storage is going to be awesome on that U-pick, especially with the 3600 placements around it. Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to get mine.
Yep, absolutely. And if you're going to river fish, we all 4 recommend buy some good waterproof boxes. You'll thank us later because they float.
I'd like to, first and foremost, like, my teammates here, I'd like to thank Jackson. I think I touched on, one of the episodes I was on, and I actually applied to be on the Jackson team for, I think, close to 6 years. And, the stars aligned in the 6th year. And here, I've been in Jackson since they started. And that's how I came in. That's how I'm going out. I mean, just a great product, a great people, great team. And can't thank you enough. It's, just blessed to be a part of it.
Well said, Travis. Well said.
I appreciate that. Mr. Brock, you probably think I got some sponsors here, so that's why I went last.
No, I've been trying to mix up the order so everybody feels left out. Try to be equal opportunity first server.
Mike Buca's swim baits. The Buca brand was in recent weeks bought by GSM, the same people that own Yamamoto. I am on Mike Buca's Buca brand pro staff. They make might be familiar with them with the baby bull rat, baby bull shad, baby bull, bluegill, all that stuff. That stuff is river smallmouth candy, and I love that stuff. And I've known Mike for like 2 decades, so that was a great marriage on my part. Very blessed to have that. Pro Tier Bait Sense. If anyone Googles my name was smallmouth, you're going to come across a lot of scent articles. Most notably, on the In Fisherman and all that, and with Ned Katie and stuff, we talked about scents for years. St. Croix rods, 7 reels that are made by essentially St. Croix. Sims, like I mentioned earlier, I've been with them for, heck, I don't know, almost 2 decades now. Smith Optics and Yamamoto. And I'm certainly blessed to have all those relationships. I got some just fantastic people. I mean, really are. I had one question for Mr. Shane. At the end of the season, if I send you, I don't know, probably 2,000 or 3,000 plastics, would that help you?
Oh, absolutely. So at the local bait shops that I have baits hanging at, we have a 5-gallon bucket that has a sign on it that says, "Please drop your plastics here."
That's awesome.
They will be repurposed, minus anything that's Z-Man. Do not put any Z-Man stuff in there. Yeah. And at the end of the season, I'll get half 5 gallons, 2.5 gallons, maybe 5. The local fishermen will just drop in there. And once again, I just take those and remelt them down.
Right.
And those will turn into either crappie baits or they'll turn into something. And those get redonated, repurposed into, because you can actually remelt a plastic 3 different times before the integrity of it is no good. So, I get all the time. I had a guy actually drop off a not trash bag, but a grocery bag today at the house. Hey, man, I dropped off a bag at the house. Do what you do. So I melt the heck out of those things, tear them down, and turn them into something usable. And once again, it's just a donation kind of thing. So
sure. Yeah, I think that's a great thing you're doing there, sir. That's awesome. And I think that says a lot about you for doing that. And you'll be getting a care package from West Virginia with all the plastic I've thrown throughout a season at the end of the year.
Yeah, if anybody's watching and you want to save your plastics, I can get you all my information. You can send them all to me. And honestly, I started employing my 17-year-old daughter. She just quit Chipotle, and she works for me full time now. And she pours baits nonstop, and she loves it. I think it's great. She's learning the colors and the techniques, and she's like, "So monkey milk, that looks like cookies and cream, Dad." I'm like, "Well, you call it what you want, but industry is called monkey milk." So she's learning the colors, doing the thing, and I got her hooked up with. She's actually made her own colors for crappie baits. And I let her make the money off of those, and that goes towards her college and doing that kind of stuff. But she just got back last night. I picked her up from a missions trip in Dominican Republic, where she goes every year, and it's amazing. To God be the glory. That's all it is, man. I do it to try to serve Him and His kingdom as best I can, and that's just being the person that He created us to be, and it's love for other people.
Very good. Yep. That's
Very
fantastic.
awesome. Very awesome. Well, guys, we're going to check out for tonight. Thank all you guys at home for watching. Thank you for listening. Check us out on Spotify, all the streaming platforms except for Apple. We'll work on that. We need to work on that. That needs to be our goal for 2024. It's the only platform we're really not on. So, yeah, check out the podcast. The Orion podcast has got some really great interviews. And we will see you guys on the next one. JacksonKayak.com. Pick you up a cooler, shop some kayaks. We appreciate you guys watching. Good night, everybody.